14 lessons to learn while you're young. I really should call this video 14 lessons my dad taught me while I was younger. I'm gonna tell you 14 different lessons and how he taught me these lessons. Stick around to the end because number 14 is really deep. Let's get right into it. Lesson number 1, saving money and budgeting. When I was younger, I would get an allowance. I had a list of chores that I had to knock out. Instead of giving me $10 a week, let's say, he would actually accumulate each weekly allowance and at the end of the month, give me $40. When he gave me that money, he would say, you can go blow this $40 right now and spend it on whatever you want, but don't come to me if you need a nickel for anything else. On the other hand, you could save the entire $40 and next month, you'll have $80. Paying me my allowance in this fashion taught me how to budget my money. Some months I would blow it and I would feel the repercussions of my spending habits. Some months I would save it up and I'd have $80, let's say $100. It was a really good way just to teach me at a young age how to budget with the money that I was getting. The second story I have for you is all about people skills. Understanding what you want from others and then playing accordingly. I'm gonna share a quick story with you. When I was in 5th grade, I had a bully. This kid was just picking on me all the time. He would never leave me alone. And I told my dad about it. And my dad said, well, what do you want to get out of the situation? And I explained that I just want him to stop. I didn't want to create a feud. I didn't want to fight him. I just wanted him to leave me alone. And so we put together a plan to get him to stop. My dad literally went online with me. We printed out 10 or 11, we looked up random disses, like random comeback disses online. Literally, we had a piece of paper and we printed out like random jokes to fire back. If somebody made fun of you in any way, you could read off the joke and say something like, I don't know, I bet you got those pants from Gap or something like that. Just anything kind of funny. It was all relatively appropriate, but we literally came up with a comeback sheet. I printed out that sheet and I studied it that night. The next day, I went to school with it in my back pocket. And just like clockwork, my bully the next day came to me and he was firing off on me like bullies do, right? But this time I was prepared. I immediately responded with one of my jokes. The entire room cracked up laughing. But here's the thing my dad told me. Let's do this, but when you win, if you want him to stop bothering you, then you need to let him off the hook. You need to look at him and say, I'm just joking, man. Be the bigger person. That's how you're gonna get him to not mess with you anymore, and you're gonna get what you want out of the situation. This is all going back to people skills. What an amazing way to teach your 5th grader how to deal with a bully and get the outcome that they wish at the end. That's exactly how the story went. I swear on my life, I cracked the joke. Everybody started laughing, and I looked at him right in the eyes and I say, I'm just joking, man, I'm just playing with you. Kid never messed with me again. I had 9 other jokes in my back pocket in case he ever wanted to, but I never had to use them. That's a great lesson in people skills everybody should learn while they're young. Number 3 is a quick one. Never make a promise that you can't keep. My father never promised anything that he couldn't keep. You know how when your kid's younger, you'll tell him, I promise I'll take you to ice cream if you do X, Y, and Z. In my dad's circumstance, he would literally tell us, I'm not gonna tell you that I'm gonna do this for you unless I'm guaranteed have the time. I'll put in my best effort, but he was very careful about using the word promise, especially when we were in the back of the car. I remember asking, do you promise? And he would look back at me in the eyes and say, I would love the promise, but I can't absolutely commit to it, so I'm not gonna say the word promise. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna try my best, son, and we'll see what ends up happening. I think that's just such an important lesson a lot of people forget. When you say the word promise, especially to a kid, that is your ironclad word. And my dad did a really good job of just making sure that he didn't make any promises that he couldn't keep. Lesson number 4, keep it rolling right here. Do it right or do it again. This was a slogan in our household that I think many people should live by. When we were doing the laundry, whether we were cleaning a bathroom, my dad would inspect what he expects. If we said we cleaned the toilet, he would come and check on the toilet after the fact. And if we didn't do a solid job, my dad would say, do it right or do it again. And I have it ingrained in my brain the second or maybe even third time when I was cleaning the toilet as a kid, you know, practically in tears. I wanted to go out and play with my friends, and he had us cleaning the toilet for the 3rd or maybe even 4th time, but it really drilled into my head, do it right or do it again. I was actually spending double the time, and he took the time to explain to me, saying that if you would have just done it right the first time, then you wouldn't be spending this extra time coming back and doing it again. Hit on number 5 here, Face your fears. I was afraid of the dark when I was a kid. I'm not afraid to admit it. When I was a little kid, I was a little afraid of my feet poking out at the bottom of the bed if you were pulling the sheets up too high. Some of you guys can maybe relate with that. I told my dad this, and he said, you know what I did when I was your age, when I was afraid of the same exact thing? He said he turned off all the lights in his house. This is a night where he said he was alone. I do believe him, because again, my dad never made a promise that he didn't keep, so I do believe his word in this. He told me that he got out of bed in the pitch black. He was in his boxers, he was a little boy at this time, and he walked up to the scariest areas of his house. He walked straight up to his closet, the door was open, and it was pitch black. He's just looking at the pitch black abyss of his closet, and as a kid, you know that feeling like you just go on forever, like an endless cave. And he said, if there's a monster in here, take me. Take me. He faced his fears, and he said, you know what, then after that, I turned around and I let him have my back, and I said, okay, well, if you want to take me, then take me. And nothing happened. He faced his fears, head on, face on. What a great thing to do, to tell your kids at a young age. Face your fears head on. What are you scared of? Reach out, tell the monster to come grab you. After the fact, you're gonna realize there is no monster and that you're safe. And you're never gonna have that fear anymore. I wish I could tell you that I had the courage to get out of my bed and do exactly that, but I still remember that lesson that he taught me, and I use it today in everyday battles. Whether it's being afraid of the dark, or whether it's an important business risk, or maybe a relationship thing that you're working on, face your fears, hit them head on. It's a really, really big number 5 lesson for you. All right, lesson number 6, never tell a lie. This is classic, but I think a lot of people when they're dealing with kids, tell them little white lies to get them to do particular things, and my dad just never really did that with me. In fact, I remember one time there was a friend of my dad's that was somehow talking to me about taking a shower and washing between my toes, and she told me in front of him that if I didn't wash well between my toes, that she had a cousin that lost their feet, had to get their foot chopped off because they didn't wash between their toes well. And my dad literally stopped her and said, hey, don't tell him that. We don't need to scare the kid. Like, yes, Sam, it's important that you wash between your toes, but you're not gonna lose your leg. I think this is just a hilarious story, because when I think back, he was so candid in treating me like an adult, and he wanted me to understand what was real and what wasn't, but he wasn't willing to use a white lie or a little story. He treated me like a young adult, like a young man from a young age. I think it's really important when you're thinking about how you treat people on a daily basis, how you might treat a kid. If you grow up as a kid and you're constantly being lied to just so you need to do what you need to do, I think it might mess up your perspective as an adult. You might not be able to have some of the clarity that you need as an adult because of the way people treated you as a child. Really important lesson. I think people overlook that, especially when they're dealing with kids. So that's a really good number 6 for you. Lesson number 7, having a candid perspective on life and its expectations. So when I was younger, I played guitar. I was actually pretty good for the time. I started at 4 years old, grew up playing guitar every day. I actually learned from my father, who plays guitar as well. I remember being in the guitar store. We would go to Sam Ash, and I used to take the best guitar off the wall, and I would love being there for hours just playing, and I was really good. I was playing a lot of scales, pentatonic scale. You know, I would be playing the guitar, and a lot of people would stop and look at me and say, wow, that kid is so good. I was like a young protege at the time. I was really good playing my pentatonic scale, having a lot of fun and getting some attention by people walking by. And my dad told me this, he said, you're really good right now because you're 5, 6, 7 years old. But in order to get that same reaction when you're older, you're gonna have to continue to progress in how good you are, because you're not gonna impress people when you're 15, 16, playing at the same skill level as you are now at 5, 6, 7 years old. Blew my mind. It is a real expectation on life and how you need to continue to advance. And a lot of people wouldn't tell a kid that. They would say, you're just so good, you're just so good. But he knew that might get to my head, so he said, you're really good right now. But when you get older, you need to continue to progress. And that pushed me to continue to progress. I think it's a really good, candid perspective on life and giving you really good expectations. I think a lot of people float through life and not really have a reasonable expectation on where they need to grow if they actually want to get to where they're going. And the way that he described that to me at 5, 6, 7, he wasn't putting me down. He was telling me the God's honest truth is that you're really good right now. You see, those people are reacting to you and they're all looking at you If you like that attention and you want to keep that going, you need to really commit to continuing to do that as you get older so you can get that same reaction. I thought that was huge. As I reflect on it, it gave me a really good expectation on life. And even now, I'm able to use that lesson and understand where I need to be. Number 8, this is a household slogan. Later is never. All the time, if I were to put a dish in the sink and I'd say, oh, I'm gonna do it later. We had a saying, later is never. It's not gonna happen. You do it now, you accomplish things now, you take care of things right away. It was a house slogan. Every day I heard it. It was mostly about the dishes, even to the point where basically we had a rule where we weren't allowed to leave dishes in the sink because later is never. We kept up with things right then and right there, and that was a household slogan for us. All right, number 9 is a little bit different, but this is just something personal that I really think resonated with me. Number 9 is all about perspective shift and how in life you go through seasons and your perspective changes pretty often. What I'm about to share with you is a bit personal, but my dad actually used to tell me that the voice in his head was his dad. A lot of times when he was going through life and he had a lot of decisions to make, he would hear his father's voice in his head. About the time that he turned 50 years old, my dad actually told me that through all of our conversations, his perspective had shifted and he felt that I was now the voice in his head. And I remember we were talking on the phone, I almost get emotional just thinking about it. And he shared with me, you know, Sam, it's funny because I used to hear my dad's voice in my head, but now when I'm thinking about tough stuff I'm going through or different decisions I'm gonna make, I actually hear your voice. And it's crazy because you're my son, but I think we've just connected on that level. And to me, it probably took a couple years for that to really set in, but the lesson I took from it was just that your perspective is gonna shift so often. And the moves that you're making now, you need to think about where you're gonna be in the future, because the way you're treating people and the way you're moving now is all going to shape that future perspective. So you've almost gotta move with the future in mind. If he wasn't ingraining all these lessons in me, then maybe he wouldn't have had that perspective shift at 50 years old, and I wouldn't have been that person that he could put on the plate in that way to hear in his mind. So just another really good lesson around perspective and the way life changes in seasons. It's never a straight line. God has a weird way of putting us on a roller coaster in every way that you're moving, and you've got to keep that in mind because the future is unpredictable. Number 10 is absolutely hilarious. My father was a business professor. He taught organizational leadership. At the end of his career, he was at University of Central Florida, 1,200 students in every class. He was there talking for 4 hours, a seminar, and he had a lot of funny analogies to keep people's attention. And one of his first analogies in his first class, he would open up organizational leadership talking about crack cocaine. And the reason that he would talk about crack cocaine is it's all about 3 simple things. You want your business to be immediate, positive, and certain. If you can develop a business model that is immediate, positive, and certain, or a relationship that is immediate, positive, and certain, those are the 3 most addictive qualities for a business, for an individual, for a relationship to see success. I think that is a huge lesson. People don't think about that, but crack cocaine is immediate, positive, and certain. So what a great way to grab people's attention. And I bet you're not gonna forget this when next time you're looking at a decision or building a business or looking at your relationships or a car that you're gonna, whatever it is, if it's immediate, positive, and certain, I almost guarantee you're gonna have a lot more success. So there's something to learn from something like crack cocaine that could be so negative. But in this case, it's a really good reminder, and what a funny way to get all the college kids to remember Professor Clevenger's opening class talking about crack cocaine. It's crazy, but it's memorable. It's insane, but it's positive. The 11th lesson is really simple, and most of you guys know this, but nothing in life is free. There's a cost for everything that you do. One of my favorite quotes is, the path to heaven is paved through hell. You can either suffer actively or suffer passively. If I wanna have a great body and be really fit, well, I've gotta walk through hell in the gym. I'm suffering actively because I'm walking through hell in the gym, but I get the result that I want. If I want to be a rich millionaire, I've got to build that business, work with my team, do the groundwork. That's the path through hell to get to heaven. And nothing in life is free. There's a payment for everything. You can either pay for sitting on the couch. There's a price to that. You're going to look like crap. You're not going to feel your best. You're not going to be able to live life to its fullest. But it's passive. You're choosing the passive suffering. I think that's huge. I think about that when I make decisions for what I'm gonna do in the day, how my calendar looks, whether I wanna get up and go to the gym or not. So a little bit of motivation, if you're lacking that discipline to get up and go and do whatever you need to do, nothing in life is free. Number 12, the slippery slope. In my house, we talked about this all the time. There was no lying, because if you lied, then you would cheat. And if you would cheat, you would steal. And this is gonna sound crazy, but if you would steal, you would murder. Essentially, it was a slippery slope of sin in the household where we just wanted to have an honest relationship with each other. And my dad would talk about, if you'll lie, you'll cheat. And if you'll cheat, you'll steal. And if you'll steal, you'll murder. Which, as a kid, I would never murder. I would never kill anybody, right? But we would talk about this. It was kind of a running joke, but I really do think that there is such thing as a slippery slope, and the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So building that character in a young person, remember, this is 14 lessons to learn while you're young. Building that character up when you're 4, 5, 6, knowing that, hey, that's not the way that we walk in life. We actually walk this path. In this household, we had a credence, and those are things that were repeated at a constant time. We were always talking about, if you'll lie, you'll cheat. If you'll cheat, you'll steal. If you'll steal, you'll murder. Sounds crazy, but it's super memorable. I don't know where he got this, but we grew up talking about this all the time. It's a slippery slope in life. So choose. Are you gonna let the little small things lead you into other things, or are you gonna live a life where you're dedicated to a credence and you know who you are and you're going to stick on that path? It's a choice that you make, but if you learn that while you're young, I think you're gonna have a lot bigger chance of being successful, a lot better chance of being who you wanna be, and a lot better chance to have the intention in your life that's gonna carry you towards satisfaction at the end. Okay, I've got a funny one and I've got a deep one here. So using mindset tricks to remember things. A lot of times, I always struggled with spelling when I was growing up. In fact, we had a spelling test. I remember in 4th grade, every Friday, I had a spelling test, and I hated my Fridays because my dad would say, if you fail, then you're grounded for the weekend. So perfect, I would fail on a Friday. And by the way, a fail was C or below in my household. And I would literally go home crying, like, I got a C. I know I'm gonna be grounded all weekend long. And it was just horrible for me. But my dad had a really cool way of using mind tricks to remember things. And this kind of went into like everything that we did. He would just use little gimmicks, little tricks, something like, all right, we're trying to remember principal, how to spell principal. And he would say, well, the principal is your pal, because the end is P-A-L, not P-U-L, because principal kind of sounds like P-U-L. And so he would use little tricks like that, where now I remember how to spell principal. And even when I say the word, I just think about that little mind trick that he made. If you can set yourself up with funny ways to remember things, whether it's, learning another language where you're just relating it to something funny, or somebody's name, if my name is Josh, you might want to call me Josh Mosh. And for some reason that might just stick with you, and you're going to remember that a lot better than just trying to remember Josh in its own. Something weird about the way our mind works, but using little mindset tricks to remember things absolutely goes far. So that's my number 13 for you. The last tip that I have, number 14. This is a bit of a deep one, but it's all about how to empathize with people. And I think this is something that, whether you're looking at business relationships, an actual intimate relationship, a friendship, empathizing with people is a critical skill set. And I remember when I was younger, my dad would say, well, let's say I was sick, let's say I was really having a hard time with something. I remember he would be able to relate with me on a level that really resonated with me, and it taught me, I think, really what he said. I remember particularly he would say, I wish that I could take the sickness for you. I wish I could take that pain for you. He would look me in the eyes, and I get emotional just thinking about it, because truthfully, I do believe that he would take that pain from me. Let's say if I was really sick and I was having a really hard time, I know he loved me so much, he would look me in the eye and say, I wish I could take this sickness for you. I can't, but I'm here with you. Anything you need, ready to go. And I really think that's a great way to empathize with people, even when people are going through things. Obviously, I don't say it if I don't mean it, but someone that you truly love, someone that you truly are walking through fire with, if you can let them know, hey, I wish I could take this for you, but I will put you on my back. Let's carry it through. What a deep way to empathize and connect with someone that you love. I'm gonna leave you on that. Number 14, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. My goal is to bring you value and inspire you to get the most out of your life, whether it's business, relationships, God, family. I want to be able to weigh in from things that I've learned along the way and give back to you. I appreciate your subscription. Thanks for joining the channel.